I said we're ready to do it live. We just need an audience.
Cue the music.
At the turn of the century, they were making some movies, but we kind of forgot all their names. So we started a podcast, and we know you did not ask. Too bad for you, my early 2000s.
Hello and welcome back to My Early 2000s. I'm your host, Will.
And I'm your other host, Daniel.
This is the show where we take a look at the loved and lost movies of the early 2000s.
It's a bi-weekly challenge we created to rekindle the passion those films gave us and the spark that brought us to the industry in the first place.
And just like every episode, we like to start things off with a liquid. Most of the time, it's beer.
Yeah.
Is it a beer this week?
It's another beer.
Wow.
Cocoa Brown.
Cocoa Brown.
The Kona Brewing Company.
Have we drank from this company before?
I think maybe we have.
Yeah, we've had something from this
Did we
brewing
have
company.
something?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're playing favorites.
Yep.
I didn't remember that when I bought it. Actually, I didn't buy it for this.
What was your reason for
It
buying
was the
this
Super
one?
Bowl, and we didn't drink it. So here we are.
I drank whiskey that day.
I know. I drank another beer that
we had beer that day?
I had the beer. We had the beer left over from the last podcast. We never finished it.
And we had this beer as well.
Yeah, we had this beer
So
as
we
well.
had a lot of beer,
We had a lot of beer.
and I didn't drink any of it.
You drank whiskey.
Let's drink this beer.
Yeah. Here's my opener.
Well, I can't because you've left the top on it.
I wanted you to get the sound.
Usually,
Now you have it.
so I'm supposed to put that in every episode. Kobe.
Shit.
Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
It's about right.
Cheers. Whoa.
Well, that's just a coffee beer.
Ale brewed with toasted coconut and natural flavor added. That's really
Just
tasty.
natural flavor added. What is the natural flavor that's been added?
Coconut?
I don't know. I like it. So
It's tasty.
I don't know if it's anything to write home about, but I'll get drunk off of it.
honestly
Faux
that
show.
toasted cocoa is cocoa nut.
The cocoa nut is doing it.
It's like right in there, right on the spot of that tongue that you want it on.
Is there a spot of the tongue you usually don't want it on?
Yes.
Good to know.
Yeah, you would know it if you found it.
I don't know how, Daniel, but we've been doing 10 of these. This is our 10th episode of
Whoa.
My Early 2000s.
Wow. Did you get fireworks?
No?
Oh.
Firework?
It's 10 episodes. It's a big deal. Where are the fireworks? You can't just make a firework with your
I
hand.
know it's a podcast, and I'm doing a very visual thing. You can't even see
He's
it.
making fireworks with his hands.
10 episodes!
So we started this podcast back in October with high hopes in mind. Actually, we had very little hopes, and we didn't know what the fuck we were
absolutely
doing.
no hopes.
Yeah, me neither. And we wanted to just talk about the movies that inspired us when we were younger. They don't seem like that long ago to us, but most of them have been out 10, 15 years. And, give them some love. Or not love in the case of Star Wars Episode 2, whatever that was.
Daniel and I didn't know what we were going to do with this. I kind of came up with a half-ass idea. I've been in recovery from a surgery this summer, and I was itching to get back to things, and I needed to do something before I went insane from boredom. And we've both been feeling this weird fatigue of grinding so hard in this town and sometimes forgetting what it's like to love the things you came out here to do.
Right.
And I don't know if it has been for you, but for me, it's been a wonderful rekindling. The love that made me naive enough to move to this town in the first place. I'm getting to go back to that feeling a little bit by doing this.
Same here. And also, it's really been so helpful to look at these movies knowing we're going to talk about them here.
Right.
And to think about them from the perspective of where I am at today, with also that knowledge of where I was when I first saw this, or maybe some
and
of
the
them I've never
industry
seen
where
before.
it was and where it is now. It's so
Exactly.
interesting to see how drastically it's changed.
It's been a real pleasure, to say it in a very lame way.
Yeah, like, I don't know. After that first episode of Mean Girls, I wasn't sure we were going to keep doing it.
I know.
There's an episode that did not come out. Maybe one day we'll release it. I don't think we should, though.
Do you have that footage?
I don't have the footage, but I have the audio.
That's what I meant, the audio footage?
Yes, I do have the audio of
audio
the
footage?
podcast. Oh, yeah, I still have it.
Okay.
No one should hear it.
Yeah, we did a pilot, essentially, that got canned by us. And but here we are, 10 episodes later, 4 months.
It's not the show we started with, but it kind of is, and it's better than the show I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun figuring out what it is.
Yeah, it took us a few episodes, and now I think the past couple episodes we're feeling like, okay, this is the show. This is what the show is, and and we're doing our best to make it good every week. Maybe not every episode is what we want it to be, but
it's honest. Every episode so far has been honest, and that's the best thing I can say for our product so far.
Yeah.
Is that every single time we haven't forced a feeling, a line, anything. It's genuinely how we feel. I don't know if you guys know this, but every episode Daniel and I watch these films usually separately, sometimes together, but we won't usually talk about it that much until we press record.
Yeah.
It's so vital to how the show turns out for us to genuinely react to our real feelings about the scenes, the scene work, the actors, everything. If we had a discussion before this podcast, I don't think it'd be as interesting.
Yeah, totally. And there are times when we're walking around and we want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And one of us will say, I'm not going to say what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say it on the podcast.
Yeah.
That happens constantly. And, it's been fun to just have a project to look forward to and to want to talk about movies. It's great to talk about movies.
Yeah.
With a positive eye. And I don't know. I'm loving it.
And we also have to shout out everyone that's been listening so far. Thank you guys so much for downloading and bearing with us while we figure this out too.
We're very grateful.
We
Happy to have you
consider
here.
we consider you guys part of the Splash Zone family. So thanks for taking the dive.
You're fired. You are fired.
It's a joke you can tell your mom.
Please don't.
Don't though, she'll judge you after. But before we bore you too long, we watched a movie this week, didn't we, Daniel?
We certainly did.
What movie?
We watched Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story.
Amazing film. Oh my God. So I know we just did a comedy. Like we've done a couple comedies back to back to back. But Daniel and I have been talking about watching this film for a couple months, almost since we came up with this podcast idea.
Yeah.
Dewey Cox Walk Hard has just always been at the top of my list as one we should revisit. So I know we just did music and lyrics, but it just came out on Netflix and it just celebrated 10 years.
This movie came out in the year 2007.
Wow.
2007, a different time.
It's 11 years ago.
Yes.
And that's why we drink on this podcast.
It was directed by Jake Kasdan. He also directed the new Jumanji movie, Bad Teacher, Sex Tape, bunch of episodes of New Girl, TV stuff. It was written by Judd Apatow.
Was this his first
He directed
feature?
was called Zero Effect. I don't know what that was.
All right.
And then he directed Orange County in 2002. So I remember that one.
Yeah, Orange County was so big. We got to do that one on this show sometime.
We totally
I haven't
should.
watched that film in so long.
This movie was written by Jake Kasdan and Judd Apatow. Some of you may know him from everything. It starred John C. Reilly, Jenna Fisher, Tim Meadows, Margot Martindale, Kristen Wiig, and had about 600 cameos.
1 million cameos,
Yeah.
and some of my favorite cameos.
Yes, I agree with you. So it had just a ton of comedic actors in it. It's a who's who of who's who in the early 2000s. I wanted to rhyme that at the end, but it didn't happen. And since this movie's a kind of music movie, it's important to say the composer was Michael Andrews. Dan Byrne and Mike Viola wrote a lot of the movie's almost 40 original songs.
40 songs they came up with for this piece. 18 end up on the soundtrack.
Yep.
I think maybe like 9 are in the movie. So much detail put into
So
that.
a lot of people were in this movie, a lot of great comedic actors, a lot of names. It should have been a huge hit. I actually thought it was, in my mind.
I didn't really know that it flopped as bad as it did until we went and looked back at it.
It was
Because
a flop.
I actually saw this film in theaters. I was very excited for it when it was coming out.
Yeah.
But it suffered heavily from the writer's strike.
Yes. Yeah. It had a $35 million budget, and it opened at $4 million the opening weekend.
Just
It's
insane.
very small.
Yeah.
And in the US, it grossed 18. Worldwide, it grossed 20.
My God.
Yeah. So it lost some money
Wow.
in there. I didn't see it back then. I remember thinking that looks dumb. I honestly, that's what I said back then. I don't know why, but I remember thinking that. And-
But if you look at just the trailer and the marketing of this film, because of that time, I think they really leaned heavily on the wrong types of comedy in this film to sell it in a for sure way, like Superbad had come and done the year before.
Yeah.
The strength was in the detail and the just absolute love for the story and for the content that they wanted to tell.
Well, and also Walk the Line was really recent at that time. And to me, when I had seen the previews for it,
Right.
it looked like it was a Walk the Line parody.
Yeah, and at the time, so many like scary movies, superhero movies, like all these parody movies that were just like churned out and
Exactly.
for sure garbage. This, if you weren't looking for it, kind of looked like that.
Exactly.
In the trailers. I get what you're saying.
It definitely is a parody of Walk the Line, but it's a parody of a lot of music biopics, and it's so much more than what I thought it was, at least at that time.
Yeah, I saw like hints of Walk the Line, Ray, Great Balls of Fire, even that John Carpenter Elvis biopic that Kurt Russell's in. Like
Yes.
I just saw so many great. But what was different about it than all of those parody films at the time is this was actually, it felt like a love letter to all of those things.
Totally.
It had its own comedy and own things it wanted to make fun of. It didn't need to make fun of those movies. It just needed those movies to use as framework, I think, to tell their own story.
Exactly, yeah. And they ended up telling a great story. They really did. And it almost feels, I think I mentioned this, it almost feels like the Forrest Gump of music movies if Forrest Gump was a satire. You know, it's definitely satirical. It doesn't have the heart in the way that Forrest Gump has. It's not serious, you know. It's definitely a heartfelt movie, but it is a satire.
Yeah, I think it's weirdly an accidental love letter to the music industry. And just maybe not all of it, but for sure pop music from the 1940s to now.
Yes.
Just it hits everything about the industry. The way like Elvis stole rock and roll from black musicians.
Yep.
That's dealt with in this film. The way people go crazy and leave their families and go out of their mind thinking that they're in the right because they're just like a whiny artist. Like it touches on so many more things. It encapsulates that world more than Walk the Line did. I like this movie more than Walk the Line now.
I do too.
Yeah.
I definitely do too. And it's ridiculous, and it's joke after joke after joke, which is the point.
But I want to watch it more, and it gives me more, I think, too.
And it has this weird heart, this weird world I like living in. You know, it has this weird thing about it, even though there's all these jokes and there's these ridiculous characters, and they're making fun of everything, clearly, everything. There's this like sense of
I think it really goes
artistry.
to it goes
you know?
to the direction, the production design, the cinematography. They could have so easily. It's a comedy. They could have just lit it to look like what was that? What was that Seth MacFarlane Western that came out a couple years ago?
A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Like, look at a film like that. It looks almost like it's shot on television or something because everything's so well lit and it's about the jokes and look at me, look at me. It's not about the look of everything.
Right.
This, they spent so much time and they didn't have to make it feel like a real world. All the visuals you believe to be truly there, even though they are parody. And I think that it does so much for the world and for you to be accepting. But you know what kind of fucking movie this is. Like Tim Meadows at the top. Hang on, everyone. Dewey Cox has to think about his entire life before he performs. And it's just like,
I know.
so many movies leaned on that flashbackness in that time, and they just nail the parody.
And the whole movie is a flashback.
It feels like a parody
Insane.
of the early 2000s way of making movies.
Yeah, totally.
It's great.
It really is. It really is.
I think
Excellent.
we're overselling it a little bit, but it's...
It is what it is. Like, it's
Yeah.
a satire.
yeah.
I mean, it's in the vein of Airplane. And sometimes I know for me, like, satire is not my favorite style of comedy, personally. It just isn't. However, this movie, I don't know. Maybe because I love music or I'm a musician, I connect more to it. Or it's got all these people I love in it. But I connect really well to this movie.
No, but you touched on something there. What's interesting about the music in this movie is a majority of it, I feel, is so specific to the time that they actually made songs that could have been hits in that time. A majority of the songs that are played are not jokes. They're serious songs with serious lyrics that lean on real honesty.
Right. Totally.
In a weird, crazy comedy world.
Yes.
Sure, there's Let's Duet and some ridiculous songs like
Yeah.
that, but for the most part, it feels like real music.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I mean, the music is done very well, performed perfectly. You know, it fits the whole. It fits everything they're trying to do, and so mad props.
I was reading they actually recorded with like the recording techniques of the time for every era. They
That's
recorded
amazing.
every amplifier, like the right type of instruments, technology, everything. So that's why it sounds so good. And John C. Reilly sounds so fucking good in this movie.
Yes, he does.
He's singing everything.
He's got a great voice. He is a musician in real life. He's in a bluegrass band.
Yeah, and in Chicago, he's
In
fucking
Chicago,
amazing.
He's great in Chicago.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and also I was kind of reading an interview with the director earlier today just to kind of prep and get my mind around this whole thing. And John C. Reilly was really well known and respected at the time. However, he wasn't a starring vehicle. He wasn't meant to he wasn't leading movies.
Yeah.
And so this was a big gamble on that. And he didn't have anything to prove. He had already done Chicago by this point. He'd already been nominated for an Oscar, I'm pretty sure. But this movie just solidifies the fact that he is as good as he is.
Yeah, it's incredible how much of a comedic actor he can be and yet bring so much realness to this part.
Absolutely.
You can see the chops on this guy.
Right.
And if you are not a fan of John C. Reilly, maybe you should watch this film because it might turn you.
And also I think it's important to note that a lot of the people who are in this movie alongside him are not huge stars.
At the time.
Like Kristen Wiig's huge now, but at the time she was probably on SNL, but she wasn't huge.
No, it's 2007,
Jenna
man.
Fisher is in it, and she was obviously Pam on The Office, but it was still pretty early The Office. And she's not like she's a movie star. She's a TV star.
Pam! It's hard to see her as
Pam,
anything.
Pam!
It's really hard to see her as anything but Pam, but she really does a good job at disappearing in this
She's
film.
very different,
Yeah.
in this movie.
Well.
She looks different, too.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like... Pam is very...
Finish that sentence.
normal.
Yeah.
She's like a normal person. That's
Yeah.
what they're trying to do.
And this is a very eccentric, over-the-top
This
character.
is like
Yeah.
very hypersexual, you know. That's just not what we see Pam as.
Yeah, and I've never seen her do this kind of comedy, and it's fucking hilarious.
She's great. She's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, now that we've totally romanticized and overly hyped this film, maybe we should talk about the synopsis a little bit.
So, as we said, Dewey Cox is a satire based on the musical biopics like Ray and Walk the Line.
Yeah, so if you've seen Walk the Line, you've kind of seen the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
So take that into consideration.
Yes.
It just goes one step farther.
Yeah,
Instead of
10 steps further.
1 million steps.
Yeah.
Instead of Johnny Cash just like going fishing and being like, I left my brother at the mill and he hurt himself. It's, I cut my brother in half with a machete.
Exactly. You're not even half the man that he was when he cut himself and when you cut him in half. That's the part where I fall in love with the movie, which is like 3 minutes in.
Or the doctor that's like, yeah, it was a pretty bad case of being cut in half. As opposed to a good one. And then, I love this tiny little detail. It feels so silly in the beginning of the film. But Dewey Cox, Johnny Cash, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
He, because of this huge traumatic moment with his younger brother and this weird relationship he now has with his parents and his father specifically, in this trauma, he loses the sense of smell.
Right.
And at the time, it's just like, what is that? You can't smell blind, son. I think by the end, when they bring it back, it's kind of fucking great.
Yeah.
It's really worth that silly, awkward line up front
Yeah.
to get that reaction at the end.
Absolutely. It's kind of creates this like, I don't know, little mini story under
I
the...
lost my sense of smell.
Right. Exactly.
Now.
The trauma took away the smell and eventually gave it back when he achieved everything he needed to achieve.
Yeah, so he kind of like sets out, because I killed my brother, I'm going to be great for the both of us. I'm going to be double great, is what they keep saying.
Yep.
So in the next scene, he's got a recital. He's 14, but he's 40-year-old man. What'd you think of that first scene?
It's
Because
really...
it's our first like music scene, you know?
Yeah. Is this when he's at the dance? Or
This
not
is
the dance talent show?
Yeah, it's his talent show, and he's playing.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
There's like a tap dance right before, and he's like, wow, how are we going to follow that?
I know. And then immediately all the teenagers like start becoming debaucherous, like devil worshipping, like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, like
every
rock
girl
and roll
starts
kids.
ripping her shirt off. The
Yeah.
guys start humping the
He
ground
punches
and
a priest.
dancing. Yeah.
You know?
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's
And
ridiculous.
it shows just how funny
Yeah.
it was for parents to freak out about that music at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Weird disconnect has always been there. It's the devil's music with
Right.
parents and young people. It's always going to be there.
It's just
no
there.
matter what the music turns out to be.
I know, it's very... I think that scene actually paints it better than anything.
So he wins the talent show.
Yeah, so he wins the talent show, and he becomes... eventually, he becomes a massive star. He goes through a little bit of hardship.
Right. We see him working at a club, and
he ends up subbing for Daryl from The Office, Chris Robinson, and ends up getting a record contract and becoming a big star, going on the road,
just like Elvis,
getting
stealing
hooked
it.
on drugs,
Stealing it.
having like 28 children with different people.
It's amazing, and I love the because it's so funny. Most of these films have like the before girlfriend, before you're famous, and then the after girlfriend. And I think it does such a great job of placing that type of dynamic of fuck this guy a little bit, the way he could just throw people and his children aside. I think it does a really good job of making fun of those people. You could take my children,
right,
but you leave me my monkey. Just like
totally.
You're garbage.
Yeah. Or when he's also like, I'm gonna miss some things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss some births. I can't be there every time you want to pop out a kid.
Oh my god, it's just fucking terrible.
So funny though.
But then he meets June Carter.
Yes, he meets Pam.
Darlene.
Because
there's a whole fucking song. Darlene.
So he meets her. They end up having some kind of affair. He's still married to Kristen Wiig, blah, blah, blah. He ends up going through different styles of music. So like a Bob Dylan, a punk phase, a Roy Orbison phase. He goes through a lot of different they spoof on a lot of different artists.
What's your favorite phase of Dewey Cox? Of all the music and genres and stuff that he plays with over the years, what's your favorite Dewey Cox?
Probably the Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Because it's ridiculous.
And it's really him singing it. Like, I had to, rewind it and be like, is that him?
Mm-hmm.
It's him. That's so fucking good.
And it's so fun. It's, so out of place, Because you're like, wait, what? What did he do?
And by the bed of the ring, movies. What is this fucking song about?
Who's your favorite? Or what's your favorite Dewey?
I think probably Punk Dewey, just because he's done cocaine
He's done
for the
cocaine.
first time. And he's just playing his songs really fast.
Faster,
yelling at his whole band. And
yeah.
then he's like, I'm sorry. He loves them again. It's just, oh my God, it's so funny.
So anyway, that's kind of it. It plays out like a biopic. He goes through drugs. He gets clean. He changes.
It hits all the tropes that those films hit and
Absolutely.
makes fun of them and somehow makes it stronger by making fun of it.
And it's nonstop comedy. It is nonstop. Every minute there is something.
A lot of comedies that I watch at home don't make me laugh out loud alone.
Yeah.
I laughed so much watching this movie.
Me too.
I really, really love Jack White's cameo as Elvis.
Totally.
I didn't realize it when I watched the film back then that it was Jack White, but
neither.
now I instantly recognized him and was like, what do you do? Oh my God.
So funny.
It's just Mumbletown, USA.
What did he say?
It doesn't matter. It's so fucking good.
Well, one thing I read earlier that was pretty interesting was that when Judd and Jake were writing this movie, they were writing the songs themselves too.
Oh, really?
Even though they're not musicians.
Right.
And so they thought they could do it, or they didn't maybe think they could do it, but they thought they could contribute to it.
Yeah.
And they realized pretty quickly that they couldn't. And so they did get a credit. They did get a credit on Walk Hard, the song Walk Hard, which John C. Reilly also wrote with them and another guy. And that song was nominated for a Golden Globe.
That's the one that's most parody and most focused to Walk the Line. So it probably took a lot of people to make that one come together.
And Judd Apatow
that one won a
has
Golden
been
Globe, though?
No, it was nominated.
Oh,
Judd
okay.
Apatow has been nominated for Best Song at the Golden Globe.
That's kind of dope.
That's amazing. Yeah. More, please.
Yeah. Write more songs.
Judd.
Honestly, it's a good fucking album. So if he wants to pretend to write more music, I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah, write more music. Put your name on it. Steal from other people. I don't care.
Bo Burnham writes songs, dude. You know him.
Oh, you were talking to Judd. I was like, I don't know Bo. I've never met him.
Judd knows Bo.
Judd does know Bo.
He doesn't know us. So there's no reason for him to hear that. But I spoke directly to him just in case.
Just in case, Judd, you're listening.
Just in case Judd sounds like a great television show.
Just in case. Hey, Judd, we want to option that for you. So
just in case Judd sounds like a really bad TV show.
You can email me at me.com.
Me at me.
This beer is,
Honestly,
I'm right in with it.
I'm going to need a second beer in a minute because
Me too, I'm almost done. Cheers. I mean, Jinx. Shit.
Well, now that we've got a second beer, it's time to dive into some questions about this movie. Daniel, what was your favorite line or moment?
My favorite moment is the scene with the fake Beatles.
You mean the Beatles?
The Beatles.
I like them better than the normal Beatles.
I do too. They're hilarious.
Why is Jack Black, Paul Rudd,
Jason Schwartzman, and Justin Long.
not on tour right now?
Dude, they're the best.
And I think all of them are actually musicians, too.
Paul Rudd, a musician?
Slapping a bass.
Oh, he slaps the bass.
He slaps the well, I guess him and Paul got to switch. Maybe John plays bass in this band.
That's true. They are so funny. Their accents make the whole thing.
Great record. And he's just like his lip is moving in a way that a lip has never moved.
It's just brilliant. Like, I never thought when I was watching that movie that they were going to sit down with the Beatles. Like, it was just the surprise of the century.
But that's what makes it fucking worth it. Like,
Yeah.
they literally hit every ridiculous thing that happened in
Yeah.
the industry.
I know. I probably should have figured when I saw Elvis that the Beatles were going to come, but I never thought we'd get that far.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we made it all the way to rap in modern day, man.
yeah,
You know?
we made it. Yeah, everything I wanted, and with 4 people, I want them to do that Beatles movie.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Judd, make that.
You might be onto something there. I don't know why they haven't made that comedy movie.
Make that movie. I mean, there might be a
Like
rights issue.
a stoner comedy Beatles? No, because if they were able to do that scene, how are they not able to do the flick?
I want that movie.
I know Ringo wants that movie too.
Absolutely, he does. And I think Paul has a good enough sense of humor.
like to get stoned and hang out. Fucking Jack Black I think Jack Black's my favorite in that scene, though. Of course I
Me
did.
too.
I booked him. Paul McCartney, leader of the Beatles.
Dude, oh my God, that scene. Please make that movie. Jack Black and Jake Kasdan just made Jumanji together.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's make it happen.
They're
guys.
friends.
And they're going to do Jumanji 2.
Well, they should hold
3,
that
technically.
off. Make this Beatles movie, then let's do Jumanji.
Okay. Well, whatever. What was your favorite liner moment?
My favorite moment was Dewey's Brian Wilson phase. Just so he's kind of hit the pinnacle of all of the drugs he can take. He's hung out with the Beatles. He's done everything.
Yeah.
To the point where now he's just taking PCP and everything.
Right.
And he wants to be a real artist, but in that wrong headspace to be a real artist. And he's got like didgeridoos and like full orchestra, like the most ridiculous, and it's so
Totally.
brilliant the way he breaks down and goes crazy just like Brian Wilson did. It's so fucking funny. I don't know.
No, you're right.
Or
Yeah.
you could watch that scene plays without the joke if you don't get the Brian Wilson reference.
Right.
But there's still something about it that makes it a little bit special because you do.
I actually thought you were going to talk about the marijuana scene, the pot scene.
No, I love that scene though too. It's the cheapest
That's
shit there is. 'Cause,
Honorable
like,
mention.
definitely the most laugh out loud
Yeah.
scene. I think everyone laughs the most
I
at
don't
that
want to
scene.
get a hangover.
It doesn't give you a hangover. Sounds kind of addictive. It's not addictive.
Well, I don't want to overdose or anything.
You can't overdose.
Is it expensive?
It's the cheapest shit there is. It's just
You don't want any part of this. I
Tim
kinda
Meadows is a comedic genius
He really
in this
is.
fucking
do.
film.
Yeah, he is.
But I think to your point, like it's seen the ending of those relationships and the Brian Wilson freak out that I love so much. The way they just like, you fucked my wife and you fucked me. And it's been different ever since then. And it's just like the most ridiculous breakdown you've ever seen.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. It's fucking great.
It is great. It is great.
Well, speaking of ridiculous music and putting too many songs on top of each other, what did you think of the soundtrack?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've kind of already said that
we've
a lot.
kind of already said it. I will speak to that. The last song was amazing.
Really?
The
Yeah.
The song he sings at the Grammys.
Yeah.
It's not funny at all.
No.
It was beautiful. It almost kind of made me cry.
There's a couple songs in there, if you're really paying attention, they're not jokes at all.
And it was, I mean, it was gorgeous. And the fact that they ended the song and it was beautiful. And then they put a joke like Dewey Cox died 37 seconds after this performance.
Amazing. It
So
just
you-
like gets you back into
it. But like it honestly, it's such a special song for anyone who's just lived past a time that they reminisce about,
Yeah.
regardless of age or wisdom or anything. It
Yeah,
was
I
just
think you
kinda
can
like,
listen to that song
that
at
was
any
really
moment.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I loved that, and I loved the other one. The Let's Duet.
Let's Duet's a great song.
So great.
I love Guilty as Charged, too.
Yeah.
Guilty as Charged is such a good fucking song. But that song, I can't remember anything really funny in the lyrics in it. It's just like I think I would listen to that song had I not known what it was.
They do a great job of finding the style that the song is, playing up the style for satire, or just writing within that.
Because they're almost writing a song per decade of what that decade felt like.
They even do like the 2000's version of his rap.
The way we've digitized music and sampled it.
Yeah. Yeah. So even that, it goes
and
through
they just use
all kinds
hard.
of stuff.
That's all they use
I know.
in this song. Fuck it. Get those royalties, man.
Whatever, Dewey. Get them. You have like 32 children. You're going to need the money.
I love that he reunites with all of his children at the end of the movie. I know
Totally.
we didn't really talk about that, but he's got all 37 kids or some shit like that,
Right.
and just throws catch with every single one of
Right.
them and makes up for that time.
What was your name again?
Dewey 1, Dewey 2. Like, aren't they all like some form of Dewey?
I think so, yeah. So good. Who does the Oscar go to?
I mean, everyone's so good, and I really don't want to give it to anyone but John C. Reilly because, I don't know, man, watching this movie, it makes me a little upset that more people don't love it. Don't go to it as a loved film and a loved film for him. He's so good, and he brings so much that didn't need to be there in a parody film.
He's the only person to give the Oscar to. If we had a Best Supporting, I could give it to 10 other people, but he's the only one.
He
And
really just shines.
He really does. Also, he was nominated for a Golden Globe for this.
Really?
For Best Comedy or Musical category.
Yeah.
So he didn't win, but...
Should have. Who won that year?
I don't know.
Fuck them.
Fuck those guys.
So this film already has a lot of cameos. I'm not actually sure if this cameo would land in a film like this, but would you put The Rock in this movie?
The better question is, would I put The Rock in every movie? And the
Okay.
answer would be yes.
Okay.
I
well,
would.
That's usually what this question's about, but I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to overload it.
Who would I put The Rock as?
You don't want to take away anyone from the cast because they're so
No,
fucking important.
They're all perfect. They're all
maybe
perfect.
Jonah Hill,
Maybe.
his older version of his brother, but that probably wouldn't have worked out. That wouldn't have made much sense, I guess.
No, and I love Jonah Hill there.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to put him into a slice of this movie. I wish that they would have added like another rock and roll legend, or don't hate me. What if they brought in Michael Jackson and The Rock was Michael Jackson?
What is that?
I don't know. I just
The Rock is Michael
it'd
Jackson.
be so wrong.
Hee.
Really buff. Really.
I guess the only like problem with that is we really didn't hit a lot of 80s stuff in this film.
Yeah, he's mostly non-existent by
Yeah,
that
we
point.
kind of blow over 80s, 90s
we do a
culture.
little bit in that talk show he has.
Yeah,
but
but that's 70s.
that's like it's 78.
Dun, 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 walk hard.
Okay, all right.
It's like that disco.
Yeah.
So I guess it is
It's
coming
like
into
late,
the 80s.
late 70s.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Maybe there's someone else he would be good as. What do you think? Maybe you have a better idea.
I'd actually like to see his attempt at playing Elvis because I really, really
be
do
really
love
funny.
Jack White's portrayal.
Yeah.
I just like to see The Rock do most things.
Yeah, that's true.
But to have him be this sort of like suave music guy that's too good for everybody and
Yeah.
just moves really weird,
Yeah,
I think he could play that
he
super
could
well.
totally do that. You're right. That
Put
would
a
be
funny
really fun.
Elvis wig on that head.
Oh yeah.
Which character would survive longest in a zombie apocalypse?
Tim Meadows.
Tim Meadows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tim
Why?
Meadows' character.
Why?
Because he is the more experienced Dewey Cox at all turns.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
always teaching Dewey what's next in
Uh-huh.
terms of what's right for a rock and roll person to
So
do.
what do you think his first lesson would be in zombies?
Stick.
And
the-
is he teaching Dewey or is he trying to survive himself?
I think he's trying to survive himself.
Yeah.
I think he teaches Dewey for a little bit, and then Dewey dies.
Okay.
And then Tim Meadows is like with a whole new group of people.
Okay.
Probably the people we've mentioned in earlier shows.
Yes. Yeah, what if all these surviving characters all meet up? That's a weird island.
Wow. That's a movie too.
You need to keep that in mind.
But he definitely figures out what the disease is first. He definitely figures out you got to smash their brains first. That's
he's
my
probably
thought.
cured the disease by this point.
Yeah, by this point, definitely. What do you think? Are you on the same page?
No, absolutely not. Dewey's gonna fucking survive because he keeps chopping everyone in half with a fucking machete. I've prepared for this my whole life.
But that won't help.
I can cut family in half. Let's see what I'll do to a dead, undead person.
But they're just gonna crawl on half their body.
Oh, you're right.
That won't kill them.
Well, they'll slow down, and then he'll run away.
Slow down.
And he's on PCP.
He
He's
does
fine.
walk hard.
He runs hard.
What was your favorite my early 2000s moment?
This is the only cameo that didn't land for me. And it really stands out for the time. It's Frankie Muniz? Is that, what's his name? Frankie Muniz?
Muniz, yeah.
Muniz.
Muniz?
Muniz. I don't know, but he's there as Buddy Holly, and he's just sort of like, yeah, I'm Buddy Holly. I'm around because I'm a celebrity right now. I'm Buddy Holly. I'm Buddy Holly. I'm Buddy Holly.
That's
the
really
joke
true.
didn't land for me as well. I think it was neat to see him of like, oh yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to that time, the Malcolm in the Middle, everything that Agent Cody Banks. It takes me back there.
Yes.
I've never seen that movie, but I just instantly get transformed into that time when I see his face.
I actually didn't even notice it was him.
Really?
I did not notice.
It stood out so bad to me.
That's so funny.
It was just like, holy shit.
Literally
Good to
didn't
see
notice.
you, man.
Wow.
What about you?
I guess for me, it's that end performance like at the Grammys.
Yeah.
Feels very early 2000s to me. I mean, we still do stuff like that, but just seeing the way the lights were, the way the band was, the way he was dressed.
Okay.
I don't know. It just really brought me back to that time.
Interesting. I still feel like it applies today.
It totally does.
I didn't get transported anywhere in that scene.
No, it does apply today, but it just the way it looked, the way it felt. I just remember that moment very specifically when I was that age, or back in when this movie.
Well, we've talked about this film till we're fucking blue in the face, and I'm okay with it. But how many beers out of a 6-pack are you gonna give this movie?
5.
5. All right. And why is that?
This movie, I will watch this movie again. It's a great movie. It makes me laugh out loud. It's hilarious. It has so many people I love in it. The only reason I'm not giving it 6 is because it is a satire. So satires, I think, should be judged on a scale of 5.
I think that's a pretty good assessment. It wouldn't go very far without some of those original stories to play off of.
Totally.
But I'm sticking at a 5 because I think it kind of does a better job of saying and telling the same type of story than all of those movies, with having a way better time telling it.
Exactly.
Like everyone's just having so much fun. There's no pressure. It's just love on love for music, for the time, for the industry, for everything.
Totally.
It's just a love letter to it all. And somehow it's less stressful for everyone to make, and a better product comes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I did own this film. I bought it when Blockbuster was going out.
Cool.
But I lost it almost like a year after that.
Oh,
and
really?
I hadn't watched it since. So I was really excited to watch this film
It
again.
was really fun.
I'm glad that you got to see it since you hadn't before.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
That's my hope for this.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of people go back and watch this film.
I think it's already been said, but what did you learn from this film?
I learned that comedy can still go above and beyond what is expected of them. And I was reminded of why I fell in love with that genre to begin with. I was reminded of how much detail can be taken if you want to take the time to really build up your world and characters and make those jokes land even harder. I think a lot of film today is all about the jokes and not about the story. And they got to be at the same level.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a film stick, and not just a YouTube video in the theater. What did you learn, though?
I'm going to go off what you said, because that's kind of the same thing I learned, in that this movie was constant jokes, and which is rare. And I mean, even in a comedy, it's rare to be that consistent with your jokes and that far-fetched with them. But there was so much heart attached to this whole story. They really cared to make this thing whole. And really, I will say that that's something that I think Judd Apatow does beautifully in movies. He doesn't always do joke.
And this happens like at the pinnacle of his power, and I don't think we could have gotten away with a film like this today.
I mean, I think that I can feel his hand in it. Even though he didn't direct it, I can feel that it's there because he really just, even if you look at anything he's done, he's able to capture the heart in it, regardless of how funny
But I think
it
the
is.
director goes above and beyond with all of those things and takes the detail of the world, the industry, and music in general, and just builds off of what Judd already had there.
Yeah.
You know, it just I wanted these bands to be real a little bit by the end of this movie.
Totally.
And that's not something you can say a lot of the time.
Yep.
I guess that'll wrap up our 10th episode of this thing. And so I've had a great time doing these. I think we're going to keep doing them.
I think so too. I have one question for you.
Ask it.
Are you hungry?
Because it's time.
My early food challenge.
So tell us about this popcorn you've made for
All
us,
right.
Daniel.
So this is a perfect snack for when you watch Dewey Cox, in my personal opinion.
Dewey Pops?
Dewey Pops. Oh my God. How did I not think of that?
I don't know. You're an idiot.
Dewey Pop. Dewey Pops.
I'm already eating it.
I haven't tried it yet, but
No,
I'm going to
but what
explain
is
it
it?
first.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
jumped the gun.
normal popcorn, and it has a taco seasoning packet sprinkled in. I put in some jalapenos and a little bit of jalapeno juice from the pickled jalapenos.
Uh-huh.
I also put on a little bit of lime and some cheddar. What is that called? No, pepper jack cheese.
Is this poverty popcorn?
This is poverty corn. I haven't
Dewey
tried it yet.
Pops.
Dewey Pops. Let me try.
Why
it.
are these jalapenos a little sweet?
They're a little sweet. They're from Trader Joe's.
I don't know. It's kind of helping, but I don't remember pickled jalapenos being that sweet at
They
all.
taste very different.
Trader Joe's jalapenos.
The taco seasoning actually adds a nice little element to the
taco
popcorn.
element.
Taco
What's
element.
the subtle?
Did I say subtle?
I think so. It's good, but it's not subtle.
Definitely not subtle. It's a little spicy, actually.
So I'm gonna dub this week a success on the popcorn.
Hell yeah.
It's actually a good flavor of popcorn. Let's see if we can keep it going.
Let's see.
Is there anything else you want to say about this movie before
Watch
we go?
it. It's on Netflix, which is basically free. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. If you've never seen this film before, we highly out of everything we've watched so far, I think this is the most desperate need to watch.
Yeah,
you need to
watch this
one
movie. Yeah, watch this movie.
because you probably haven't yet,
Yeah.
and I think you'd be surprised.
Yep. Me too.
So that's my early 2000s for this week. Thank you so much for listening.
If you like this show, please subscribe to us in the Apple Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to leave us a comment or review, which helps spread the word about this show.
And if you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Splash Zona Media. That's all for us today. See you next time on My Early 2000s and Daniel's Full Popcorn Face.
Bye.